What's going on, ladies and gentlemen? It is Angry Porto here, aka Take It Slow, aka Clancy, aka too many goddamn nicknames, here to talk to you today about Fallout New California. It is a fan-made prequel mod to Fallout New Vegas, which runs inside of the Fallout New Vegas client. I gotta say, it is one of the more impressive fan-made mods out there. And you guys know me and my love for the Fallout series. So when I heard that a fan-made full conversion mod for Fallout New Vegas was out there, I had to check it out. So this came out, well, it's been in development for a while, but the version I'm playing, I believe it's version 2.12, came out last year, so that would be late 2018, right around the time of Fallout 76, if I'm not mistaken. And there's some tongue-in-cheek articles on the internet saying that the best Fallout game of 2018 is not Fallout 76, it's Fallout New California. So when I heard about that, I had to give it a shot, and so this is going to be sort of a review analysis of Fallout New California. I'm going to give you my thoughts on what the mod did well, what it didn't do well, how it can improve, what it nailed, and yeah, so let's get started. So I should preface this by just saying the fact that Fallout New California exists in the first place is impressive. A lot of fan-made mods, especially ones of this scope, never see the light of day. I actually was working on, a couple of years ago now, a Fallout 2 full conversion mod with a bunch of people, and, you know, it was high-quality stuff, but the people making them, the developers, I guess you could say, you know, they're all doing it for free. It's all, like, work by fans, so most of the stuff just gets lost and no one ever hears about it. So the fact that Fallout New California exists, the fact that it's out there and it's on the Nexus mods, that's where I picked it up. But I think it's just for PC, by the way. There isn't a console version of this. But the Fallout New California team should feel proud that they finished this. It's a testament to their commitment and discipline. Again, especially given that they did all this work for free. So I guess we can give a brief synopsis of, you know, where this game starts out. The main character is a vault dweller for Vault 18, which is sort of west of Utah, Arizona, Nevada area. And it takes place, I believe, about 15 years before Fallout New Vegas, if I'm not mistaken. So this is actually a prequel. And it's not really much of a spoiler, so I guess I'll just say it. You're actually playing a younger version of the Courier from Fallout New Vegas. I guess if you want it to be. There are certain choices at the end of New California that allow you to roleplay as though you were playing the Courier the whole time, or not. That's the path I went. I chose to sort of go the... Yep, this is a young Courier. This is the Courier's backstory, which I thought was a very interesting twist. So let's talk about the pros of Fallout New California. Let's talk about what it does well. The quality in general is pretty good. It's top notch in my opinion. If this were released around, you know, the time of New Vegas, it could easily be official DLC material or prequel material. The world design is excellent. All the lore and characters are canon friendly. They fit into the West Coast Fallout universe that Obsidian and even Black Isle and Interplay were developing. The whole mod is voice acted by volunteers, and the voice acting is top notch. I mean, it's good stuff. It's hard to pick apart the quality of this mod in any way. It's good Fallout content. The writing, particularly for the game, I feel is very strong. The overarching narrative, like I said, fits into the Fallout universe. Yeah, it's obviously not official canon, but it's sort of, you know, whoever the writers were for this game they've definitely done their research in the Fallout universe and did a good job of spitballing. Oh, what could have been going on west of Nevada, you know, 15 years before New Vegas. And let's tell a story of the New California Republic slowly expanding and growing and conquering. And let's drop an opposing faction to that, the Survivalists, which are, you know, they're a solid mishmash of anarchists and raiders and just people uninterested in being annexed by the NCR. And it's a good contrast between an old world corrupt republic, hey, it kind of sounds familiar, that's slowly spreading like a virus, claiming land and resources, and people, you know, survivalists who have no interest in joining, and the tension that those two factions would have in a post-apocalyptic setting. So there's a lot of very interesting characters in this mod with very clear motivations, and they are thematically unique. You have the Braggs, brothers and sisters, who are in Vault 18 and are training the Patriots, or the younger generation of Vault Dwellers, to take back the Wasteland. And then you have the Wasteland Scouts, who are also Vault Dwellers, but who go out and scout the Wasteland. Wasteland Scouts, go figure, and sort of have a good taste of what the world is like out there. It's not really like Vault 101 from Fallout 3, where it's a really isolated vault. It seems like this Vault 18 is pretty familiar with the geopolitical realities outside the vault, and have done a good job up until that point of remaining isolated and separated from all the chaos above, but also not being oblivious to it. So one of the things that Fallout New California also does well is it allows the player multiple ways to approach quests and solve problems. And this is evident even in the very beginning. So for example, there's a part right at the very beginning where you're confronted by survivalists, and you have the option to talk to them, or start shooting, or talk and then start shooting. You can get captured, and then that sets off a whole cascade of quests. So there are a lot of different ways to solve missions, and I think that's something that was, especially lacking in Fallout 76 and Fallout 4, but Fallout New California has done a good job staying in the sort of classical vein of Fallout role-playing games and giving the player multiple ways to do things. So for example, in that circumstance where I was confronted by survivalists, I talked through it, then I got knocked out, and I said, what, I don't want to do that. I don't really feel like getting jumped and knocked out. So I talked through it, and then as the NPCs came to knock me out, I just started shooting, and that was a perfectly viable way out of the scenario too. There's a few times in Fallout 3 where you just get kidnapped. There's none of that in this. You don't get caught off guard. You have the chance to defend yourself, or essentially choose to be kidnapped as well. And I really like that freedom that this mod gave us. There's also several quests that, have the optional path. So this is the main goal of the quest, but here's an optional objective. Here's another optional objective, and they sort of are good or evil sort of karma styles, or help this faction choices. So again, player choice has really been respected by the developers of this mod, and I'm glad to see it there, and I'm glad to see them again paying true homage to a role-playing Fallout experience. So the replayability of this mod is very high. Like I said, there's the NCR, there's the Survivalists, and then there's the Enclave faction. I ended up siding with the NCR for my playthrough, but there are certain choices at the beginning and then throughout the main stories where you can side with one faction or another, or betray one faction. So I got about 12 hours through my playthrough, but if you were to go back and side with another faction, I don't know how much the quests would differ, but I gotta think that there's at least 2 completely different quest paths in this game, because, if you side against Bragg at the beginning, and then for the NCR, that's its whole quest line. And I haven't done it personally, but I have to imagine if you side with Bragg and then against NCR, you have a whole other separate questing arc. So again, my playthrough was 12 hours. If you're going to go replay this and experience all the endings, experience playing through as many factions as you would like, you got to at least double that, I would say. And again, for a free game for 25 hours, that's a great deal. So the world feels very lived in. There's a lot of factions fighting each other in the open world, and so it doesn't just feel like things are happening when the player is around. I can't count how many times where I'm traveling through the pass, which is the world name for the wasteland, and I just hear gunshots in the distance, and I approach it, and it's NCR fighting survivalists, or it's survivalists fighting creatures, or NCR fighting creatures, or there's also super mutants that show up in this game. I'll try not to spoil too much about that, but so the world feels very fleshed out and lived in, particularly with all the things going on as you approach with the character. This is a bit of a con as well, but we'll talk about that later. So the ending for Fallout New California, as I stated at the beginning, sort of can tie immediately into New Vegas, depending on the choices you make. And the main character, the star player, you have the option to make them the courier. So this whole game becomes a courier prequel, which was a lot of fun for me. Now, some people might not like that. Some people really like that the courier's background is so open. And if that's what you're going for, there are different choices at the ending too that make this character, the star player, not the courier. But I liked sort of the ability to choose between the two. Like, oh, do you want this character in your mind canon to be the courier, or it could be someone else? Again, player choice. Love that shit. And also regarding the ending, there's a twist at the ending that I didn't see coming. You know, I'm not sure how much you guys know about me, but I've written a novel. I have a degree in English. I have been through a bunch of workshops. Been writing my whole life. I didn't see it coming, so I can usually pick out a lot of twists before they happen, just because there are narrative signals often, even in good storytelling, that can give things away. But I didn't see it coming in this, so I thought that meant it was pretty well written, and I'm happy. I'm happy to be surprised, and it made sense too. It wasn't your M. Night Shyamalan twist where it's like, oh, really, fucking really. No, it was a good twist, and it actually has the ability to tie in a bunch of previous Fallout titles, not just Fallout New Vegas. It also ties back to Fallout 2 and Fallout 1, which I really appreciated because I still rank those as the top two Fallout games in the series. Hey guys, sorry about the blank screen. As I was going through and editing, I realized I forgot to bring up the soundtrack of this game. The soundtrack is excellent. It's a good mix of what I believe are original scores tied in with older Fallout 1, 2, and I believe some New Vegas scores. I have to say, whoever did the original tracks for this game did an outstanding job. My particular favorite is the track that's playing when you face off against not the very last two bosses, but the one before. I guess without spoiling it too much, he's kind of like a mini boss before the last two. Excellent work. Job well done. Okay, so let's talk about some of the cons for Fallout New Vegas. This is a free mod, and they are very open that it's in beta. So this is going to come across as kind of nitpicky, because this is a solid mod. Everything I bring up here as a con, it's not the con in the same way that you would look at a flaw for a game you paid for, or a game that just came out, like a $60 AAA game. This is still a work in progress. It's a free work in progress, and I recognize that. So one of the biggest cons for me is, I did say the world feels very lived in, and for the most part, I liked it, but sometimes there's just too much going on the screen. It does make the world feel alive, but sometimes you're in a scenario where there's like 30 people on your side fighting like 50 people, fighting 50 enemies. It's hard to track who's shooting you. You know, there's explosions going around, the screen shaking all over the place, and it's chaotic, which at times can be a good thing, but it also can just get annoying and frustrating. Especially when, you know, you're standing there, you're getting picked off by 50 guys from the distance, your health just starts to drop, and you end up just taking cover as your 30 allies fight 50 enemies, and you feel smaller as a protagonist than you do in most other Fallout games. And now that could be a bit of a design decision, and if that's the case, fair enough. I just wasn't a fan of it. The game is also a bit linear. I wanted to be let go and roam a bit, but I had an entire party of people. I think you actually have up to like 5 companions. I don't know if there are more if you side with different factions. I had Jen, Eric, Jamie, Ben, and Kira, yes. So I had 5 companions, and I felt sort of obligated to take them along with me and follow the main quest and just not really explore. And in general, there aren't a lot of side quests. There's the main quest you follow, which has a lot of branches. Like I said, a lot of choice in how you approach a lot of these quests. But there were maybe a couple side quests off here and there. But you're not going to get the same exploration experience that you would get in Fallout 3 and even Fallout New Vegas. And there's not a lot of side quests going on. I don't know how fair it is to hold that against this game. Again, it's a free-to-play mod made by fans. So I don't blame them that they don't have 80 side quests in here. I don't know how many side quests are in Fallout 3 and New Vegas, but there's a lot. But yeah, Fallout New California is mostly just you're following one story with a few supplemental side quests onto it. So Fallout New California includes the Solid project, which adds a bunch of animations for jumping and running. So this next critique, I don't know if it's actually part of the Solid project or if it's part of New California itself. So if it's part of the Solid project, then it's more of a critique of that as opposed to Fallout New California. But there's an animation to grab stuff in the open world, where usually you just, you press E and it goes into your inventory. In this one, you press E and you actually see your character's hand reach out and grab something. That looks good initially, and it is definitely more immersive, but when you get to some shelves where there's a lot of things that you want to grab off it, like a bunch of ammo, grenades, weapons, what have you, it really slows the game down and it just becomes annoying. I think that animation has good intentions behind it, but they should just get rid of it. So this critique sort of ties back to what I was saying earlier. I traveled, again, with all 5 companions, and then on a lot of missions, particularly in Fort Dagger Point, you have the potential to have an entire, like, NCR squad with you. Again, I don't know how the other factions, what it's like on the other side if you are playing with the Survivalists or with the Enclave. I don't know if the same thing happens, but having that many companions and then that many NPCs on your side, it's a cool theory, but it ends up them killing everything sometimes before I even know what they're shooting at. And again, it just makes the protagonist feel smaller in this world. It makes me feel insignificant. Like, oh, I'm just kind of along for the ride as my companions and allies following me kill everything. Not to mention they are resource drain on your computer, so it's gonna, I'm running with a fairly modern rig. I mean, it's definitely not top of the line anymore. I'll list my specs in the description, but for Fallout New Vegas, it's way better than Fallout New Vegas asked for, but it drags on the system, no doubt. There's also an escape sequence in this game that is really clunky and unfun. It's not a bad design just from a general game design perspective and narrative perspective. Like, an escape mechanic can be very fun and thrilling and full of suspense and fear and terror. But just the way that Fallout New Vegas's core mechanics work, the way that their engine works, it just doesn't allow for it to be fun. So I found the escape mechanic, if you guys play it, you'll know what I'm talking about. I found it just really frustrating and annoying and just unclear. I don't know what a good solution for it would be, but as it stands right now, it's just clunky and unfun. Also, because of the way the game works, it tells you to escape to a certain point, and while I was doing it, I was getting so frustrated that I was just like, okay, I'm just going to sprint to that point. I don't care about my companions. I don't care about the people with me. And again, because of sort of the way the AI and the mechanics of the game work, I got to that point, and my allies are with me, and they're doing that Fallout teeth grin where they're like, I hear something, and they're kind of, moving around slowly looking for one enemy that we'd missed on the way here, way back there, and it's just like, okay, I'd escaped. Can we trigger the escape script now? It's a good idea inside the shell of a game that's mechanics do not allow it to work well. There's another sequence later on in the game where you are assaulting Fort Dagger Point, again with a lot of allies, and you're going up against a lot of enemies, more than any other enemies you face in Fallout 3 or Fallout New Vegas. I remember doing the Hoover Dam in Fallout New Vegas and wishing it was a little bit more epic and wondering why it wasn't, but this sequence showed me why it wasn't. It's because this many actors on the screen in this one location at a time really drags the game down, makes it too chaotic to know who's shooting at you from where, what's going on, and it ended up me just taking cover as my allies fight my enemies as there are mortars and bombardment coming in, and it was really frustrating and not fun. I don't know what else to call it. Also, VATS in this game seems to be kind of broken. I played a high perception agility build. I was going for, I like to go a sniper build in this game because the gunplay mechanics in Fallout 3 and New Vegas, they're not very good. So I like to use VATS to hide that. But there will be times where I have a hunting rifle or a shotgun or, guns with high accuracy and I'm really close to an enemy. And I would be getting, my perception's like 7 or 8. My guns is up to 90 or 100. And I'm maybe 30 feet away from an enemy and I'm have like below 50% chance to hit. So I don't know if that was a design decision to nerf VATS a little bit. If so, I really disagree with it because, again, VATS is really what helps mask the poor gunplay in this game. So the fact that VATS was so unreliable to use made the gunplay even more frustrating than it otherwise would be. Also, the pricing of weapons in this game seems completely out of whack. Now, fortunately, it works both ways, or weapons and armor, so I'm able to sell weapons and armor for a lot more. But there's some stuff that costs thousands and thousands of caps. It's like a hunting rifle, it costs like 3,000 caps, really? Now, granted, my barter skill wasn't very high, but you would think that if my barter skill wasn't high, I wouldn't be able to sell things as high as well. So, I don't know, it seems like there's some tweaking with the skill system that still needs to be done. So, I want to get to the biggest con I have for this mod. Before I bring this up, I want to preface this by saying, I'm not sure if it's this mod, if it's just me personally. But this mod makes Fallout New Vegas extremely unstable. Now, a caveat to that is Fallout New Vegas has always been fairly unstable. I remember playing the game at launch, and it was pretty much unplayable. You know, people give Fallout 76 a lot of shit, rightfully so, for how buggy it was. But people have rose-colored goggles about Fallout New Vegas, because I remember at Fallout New Vegas when it came out on launch, I had to trick my computer into thinking it had an older graphics card so that I could play it, because it wasn't optimized with the new graphics card. So Fallout New Vegas has always been a bit of an unstable, buggy mess. But Fallout New California, the amount of crashed desktops, the amount of just lockups and freezings I got, and I'm not talking about holistically, I'm talking about every time I played, I would get a half dozen at least. A half dozen crashed desktops or freezes. And it was very, very frustrating. Now, I'm a stubborn motherfucker, so I just grit my teeth and went right through it. But if I was a little less patient, if I was not interested in doing a review like I'm doing now, I might have just been like, okay, that's it. I'm on number 6, crashed to desktop. I haven't invested any money in this. I'm gonna cut my losses here. This is too frustrating. So I don't know, again, is that because Fallout New Vegas is already kind of buggy, and then this is just a giant mod on top of it? You know, it's a game in a game, essentially. But I really hope that going forward, again, this is beta, so this isn't their final release. So I hope that going forward they can figure out if there are any stability issues on their end, if they can fix them. Because that was my biggest complaint about this mod. Everything else I feel like is nitpicky stuff. Constructive criticism, I guess you could say the word, but the stability issues I had with Fallout New California can be a make it or break it for some people. So that sort of brings us to the end of this review, of this analysis, and it's the part where in games that I paid for, I would say, would you rebuy? I can't really say that for New California because I didn't pay for it. So the question, I guess, would be, what was the effort it took to download and install the mod worth it? And for the most part, I would say yes, absolutely. It does take a little work to install, but it's fairly straightforward. All you got to do is head to nexusmods.com, go to the Fallout New Vegas section, and find Fallout New California. It's a pretty clear step-by-step instructions on how to install it, on what mod manager you used. I used the Fallout Mod Manager, FOMM. But yeah, it was, especially for me as a huge fan of the Fallout series, and given the fact that it's a free mod, I got 12 hours out of it. I would absolutely spend the time to download this mod again. Now, obviously, it's not canon, but it's canon friendly. And that was really a selling point for me, given the fact that they were able to connect this both to New Vegas and then to past Fallout titles. So yes, if you are a fan of the Fallout series, and if you're willing to put in a little bit of legwork to install Fallout New California, it's absolutely worth doing, and I would recommend it wholeheartedly. It's up there with some of the other excellent fan-made mods like Long War 2 for XCOM and XCOM 2, and even Black Mesa, the remake of Half-Life 1 through Half-Life 2. Although those mods are a little better because they're not so buggy, but don't tell Fallout New California I said that. So, and my biggest hope going forward is that they continue to polish this game up and really, really work on the stability issues. Again, I would be interested to see if you guys have played it, if you had the same sort of stability issues as I did. I recognize, again, that this is a game inside of a game. There's a lot of moving parts. There's a lot of conflicting systems going on here. But if they can fix the stability issues, then I hardly have a bad thing to say about this mod. It is excellent. It would absolutely, and it is absolutely the best Fallout game that came out in 2018. I hate to say it, but it's true. Aww. Alright, so that'll wrap it up, guys. Thanks for listening to my little Fallout New California review, analysis, constructive criticism time. If you are part of the dev team on Fallout New California, again, you have nothing to be ashamed of here. This is one of the best mods I've ever played. You guys should be patting yourselves on the back. It takes a lot of hard work and discipline to do what you guys did, especially for free. Keep it up. I look forward to seeing the new versions coming down the pipeline and how else you guys can improve this mod going forward. You guys basically made a sequel to Fallout New Vegas, and my hat is tipped off to you guys. Well done. So, thanks for listening, watching, guys. It's been Take It Slow, Angry Porto, Clancy, 2-minute goddamn nicknames. Signing off. Catch you guys next time.
Take it slow.